Breaking news from David Ornstein this afternoon sees Liverpool have their first bid for Romeo Lavia rejected by Southampton. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. Yes, we are talking about Romeo Lavia. He is the subject of today's video. Talking about him and a move to Liverpool possibly occurring this summer. If you've been following the transfer window closely, you'll know that we've talked about Romeo Lavia a number of times during the duration of this transfer window so far. He's obviously been a player that has been turning a lot of heads this past year or so over the course of this past season that has been and gone for Southampton. He stood out head and shoulders above the rest at the Saints in what was obviously a disappointing and dismal campaign that saw the Saints get relegated, but he was the standout performer in that team to the point where he was turning so many heads. He was linked with big moves away from St Mary's this summer. Arsenal were linked constantly and are still being linked with him even now, but it seems that Liverpool are genuinely and legitimately making moves to try and capture the 19-year-old and make him part of their midfield for the foreseeable future. According to David Ornstein today, a bid has been put in by Liverpool that has been rejected by Lavia's current club of Southampton. We're going to be talking all about this Lavia situation, about Liverpool, about Southampton and everything else in between. But before we go any further, I would like to remind you all to please like the video and also subscribe if you're new. Both things are always and forever greatly appreciated. And of course, I encourage you as well to get involved in the comment section. I'm sure you have a lot of interesting thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it. That will make for great and interesting reading down below in that comment section. So do get involved down there. But without further ado, let's get on with the video. Let's talk Romeo Lavia, let's talk Liverpool, let's talk Southampton and everything else in between. First and foremost, we'll say this. Romeo Lavia, like I say, a player that we've talked about time and time again in this transfer window. A player that I believe will become an absolute quality and beast of a midfielder in the forthcoming future. I'm not going to say like he's definitely for the here and now. I think he's still very much rough around the edges, as you would expect from a 19-year-old. I think he's got some good qualities about him. That is for the here and now, but can obviously get better in the future. I just don't see this guy as being the here and now, the present day type of player that Liverpool necessarily definitely need. But that's not to say he couldn't add something to this team, and that's obviously not to say that in the coming years' time he can't obviously be a big part of Liverpool's midfield going forward and obviously grow into a top quality player. I've said that time and time again this transfer window. My stance hasn't changed. I think that he's got great ball retention. I think he's got a good engine. I think he's got a bit of versatility about him in terms of he can play as a number 6, he can play as a bit of a number 8, and he can beat the press really well. All of those are very good attributes. He's a very good athlete to have in that midfield. And obviously, like I say, with playing under a better manager, with playing alongside better players, with bigger experience, better experience, whether it be on a European level in terms of European competition, like Liverpool being in the Europa League, and then fingers crossed, hopefully getting back into the Champions League for seasons to come, and obviously playing for Liverpool itself as a bigger club than Southampton, with all due respect to the Saints, of course. He can obviously grow and get better and better, and he can continue to elevate his game. My issue is that with Liverpool getting rid of Jordan Henderson, seemingly getting rid of Fabinho, but that deal seems to have hit a couple of unexpected obstacles, shall we say. If that is to obviously be overcome, we shall wait and see on that one. Henderson is seemingly definitely out the door. Fabinho is more than likely, but we'll wait and see obviously if those obstacles can be overcome or not. We will have to wait and see on that one. But my issue here is Lavia will be great for the future. He'll be good for the here and now, especially when you add him to the likes of the players that we've already brought in this summer in terms of Alexis McAllister and Dominic Szoboszlai. It's a good player to add to that mix, and it's a good blend to add a more defensive type of midfielder, someone who can beat the press, like I say, all of those good attributes that are slightly different to what we already have in a more industrious working type of midfielder in McAllister and a more attacking midfielder in Sabasloy. He's a different type of midfielder, so I think he's good in that aspect. But like I say, I don't see him being the here and now type of midfielder that we need, especially when you consider that we are losing two very experienced and two very powerful influences in that dressing room, in that locker room, in terms of leadership and in terms of quality. If we are to go out and get another midfielder, maybe, that is of that experience, that is of that quality, that is of the age and winning mentality, then I'll elevate this signing up from what I believe it to be right now. But until that point, I'm holding off a little bit of judgment on that aspect as to whether or not this goes from being a good signing that has a lot of potential for the future to a quality signing that can only elevate in the future depending on his development. Like I said, I think this is going to be a good signing either way. But whether or not it goes from being good to amazing, good to excellent, good to high quality, time will only tell. And that will obviously depend on what the club do for the rest of their business in this transfer window. And, of course, how Lavia develops over time in terms of his development. According to David Ornstein, though, we might have to hold off a little bit until this deal may get over the line, because he today claims that Southampton have turned down opening offer from Liverpool for Romeo Lavia. Liverpool proposal, thought to be worth around £37 million, rejected by Southampton as they seek fee in the region of £50 million. Personal terms for 19-year-old Belgian midfielder, not an issue. Now, we obviously have talked about how Southampton have set a price tag of around about £50 million before, so that doesn't seem to have changed there. But things seem to be moving in the right direction in terms of the player wants to move, he's open to the move, and obviously personal terms, as David Ornstein says, has been agreed. And of course, we knew that was going to happen. We knew that personal terms was going to be no issue whatsoever. When a club like Liverpool come in for a player like Lavia in a team like Southampton, we know that personal terms are not going to be much of an issue, unless obviously Liverpool are really stingy about it, which it doesn't seem to be the case, and everyone seems to have found some common ground in terms of those personal negotiations. So everything seems to be going well there. It's now all about whether a fee or not can be agreed. 50 million for Lavia seems a bit much. And I sort of get it in a way, because Southampton see him as a prized possession. He's obviously been a standout performer this past season. They'll obviously want to try and keep him to give them any hope of maybe boomeranging and yo-yoing back straight back up to the Premier League at the first time of asking, obviously being relegated down to the Championship. He's a big player for them. It's understandable why they would try and set the price so high, and they also want to get the best deal possible. Not only that, but of course Lavia is 19 years of age, so he's young, got a lot of time ahead of him. I know that next year Man City do have a buyback clause that they could explore in the region of, I believe, £40 million. So that could be explored by Man City if, of course, his development continues, and if Guardiola sees fit to obviously explore that option should it become available to him next year. And I think as well, he does count as homegrown. I know he's Belgian, but I think with obviously the age he's at, and obviously being with Manchester City beforehand, before his 18th birthday, I think he does technically count as being under the homegrown quota. So that may also bump up the price just a little bit. But yeah, I don't see a world in which Liverpool and Southampton don't negotiate here. I don't think Liverpool are prepared to go to that £50 million mark, so I'm going to say that if I had to guess and I had to make a prediction, I would say something in the region of 45 million with money and add-ons is going to be roughly around about that area that I think a deal will be agreed upon. Maybe even you could throw a player in there as a part exchange to Southampton, maybe. That could be a possibility as well. They'll have to wait and see if that one, obviously, if that happens or not. If Southampton are willing to do that. If the player that Liverpool offer is willing to go to Southampton. There are, of course, a lot of different parts to a trade deal that obviously could collapse at any moment, which is why they're the most fragile types of transfers to have in the current market. But things do seem to be going along, and like I say, I have some reservations over whether or not I think that this deal is good, whether I think this deal is great, or whether it could be great, whether it could be bad. A lot of it does depend, like I say, on what Liverpool do in this transfer window in terms of how they continue to go about their business. We still have a lot of work to do, in my opinion, and I'm not just talking about rebirthing and resurrecting that midfield, which has seemingly been the top priority of Liverpool, and rightfully so. But obviously, now that we're getting rid of Henderson, now that we're seemingly trying to get rid of Fabinho as well, we need more. We need, obviously, to get rid of more. We need to bring in more in that area. And then, of course, we need to look at the defence. I know it's pre-season, but pre-season defensively, I've not entirely been convinced, and I never was even convinced, even before pre-season kicked off. I did look at that defence and I thought, we need to address it, because if not, we're going to have the same problem that we've got with the midfield right now that we're going to have with the defence for next year. That's my concern. That is my big concern about the defence. So I think there's still a lot of work for Liverpool to do. I think it's good that we're trying to make moves, and obviously we need to make moves quick. The season is approaching. We need to get them in now, get them bedded in as best as possible, give them a bit of a pre-season to hopefully bed in with the rest of the squad, rest of the new players, and fingers crossed we'll be ready for when, obviously, the season kicks off in, what is it, about 3 weeks' time? Something along those lines, maybe even less than that. Something along those lines. It's actually fast approaching, isn't it? So yeah, it's gonna be a bit of a tight squeeze, I think, but it's nice that we're trying to go out again and go after a player like Lavia. Like I say, a guy who I rate, a guy who has got a lot of potential, a guy who can do a job for the here and now, but obviously needs time to grow into that potential and get bigger and better. So therefore, I do have my reservations over the kind of here and now, present day sort of thing of Lavia. But he is someone with a lot of potential, a bit of versatility to his game, good movement, can beat the press. He seems intelligent enough to know where to be, to find the space, to receive the ball and to obviously move the ball forward quickly. I like him. He's not the most physical of midfielders, which I think is an area in that midfield that Liverpool will lack, especially if Fabinho is to definitely leave. I think physicality in that midfield is going to be something that if I'm an opposition, if I'm a member of the opposition on any given day, I'm going to be looking at and going, you can get into these physically. And that is something that I would be a little bit concerned of with Liverpool. But I'm not completely against this. I've said time and time again, I would rather have Kefren Turan when we were heavily linked with him than Lavia. But at the same time, I wouldn't be completely against Lavia. I just think that more needs to happen if this deal is to reach a conclusion and reach a deal agreement. And I'm hoping that will be the case. I think Lavia would be a good addition to the squad, more so for the future than the here and now, but there's no reason why he can't add something to the squad for the here and now, in terms of legs, in terms of to certain situations, in terms of ball retention, in terms of beating the press, anything along those lines. I think he can be very good at. But I still think more needs to be done. And obviously more needs to be done in terms of the deal as well, in terms of reaching an agreement with Southampton. But again, I strongly suspect that Liverpool will get a deal done. I think Liverpool will get a deal done. I think this one will reach a agreement and a done deal very, very soon. And like I say, with everything seemingly good on Lavia's part as well, I think it'll only be a matter of time before Liverpool do go on and strike up a deal, and Lavia is soon to be unveiled as a Liverpool player. I'd be very surprised if this wasn't to happen, unless Liverpool obviously turn their attention to someone else. Highly doubt, well, not as highly doubtful, but at the same time, I think with all the kind of effort and work that has gone into making this Lavia deal across the summer so far, I think it would be strange if Liverpool weren't to obviously get this deal done and dusted. Unless, of course, it gets massively hijacked, or, like I say, Liverpool turn their attention somewhere else. If Lavia gets injured in pre-season, if something completely like that happens, I would expect Liverpool to sign Lavia going forward. It just obviously has to wait and see if a deal can be struck. But until that point, we will continue talking about it. Like I always say, these are just the thoughts, comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, of this guy. I want to know what you guys think. What do you make of this whole Romeo Lavia saga that has been dragging on this transfer window? Do you see Liverpool striking up a deal with Southampton for the 19-year-old midfielder? Do you think he will be unveiled as a Liverpool player soon, or is someone else waiting in the wings to pounce on this potential deal? Maybe Arsenal reignite their interest. I know Chelsea and Manchester United have also had this player on their radar, so do you think that they will now come in now that they know Liverpool are very much in pursuit of this guy? I'd love to know your thoughts, your comments, opinions, predictions, feelings, whatever you want to call it, on this potential transfer story down below in the comment section. I'm sure it'll all make for interesting and great reading. Otherwise, hit the like button on the way up if you enjoy the video. Subscribe if you're new or want to see more content like this. Both things are always and forever be greatly appreciated. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening. I've been Fletch. This has been another Fletch Talks video. And I'll see you speak to you all again soon in another video or live stream or whatever the hell it will be. Cheers, guys. Have a good day.